The morning sun streamed through the large windows of Harborview Cafe, casting golden light across the polished wooden tables. It was 9:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, the kind of peaceful morning that made people forget the world could be cruel. James Morrison sat alone at his usual corner table, the one that offered a clear view of both entrances and kept his back to the solid brick wall. Even after 5 decades of civilian life, old habits died hard. The tremor in his hands had gotten worse over the past year, Parkinson's disease showing no mercy to even the strongest warriors. His coffee cup rattled against the saucer as he lifted it, the dark liquid creating tiny waves. James focused on the simple task, the same way he'd once focused on disarming explosives in complete darkness. Steady breath, clear mind. Ignore the shaking. At 78 years old, James still carried himself with military bearing. His silver hair was cropped short in a regulation cut. His weathered face told stories of sun, salt, and combat zones most Americans would never know existed. On his right wrist, barely visible beneath his watch, was a small tattoo, a trident and the words, Team Alpha, 1968. The cafe was his sanctuary. Sarah, the owner, always saved him this corner table. She knew he needed to see the exits. The regular customers had learned to greet him with respectful nods, sensing something in his presence that demanded dignity. But this morning, new customers arrived. The automatic door chimed at 9:52 a.m., and 5 teenagers spilled into the cafe like a breaking wave. The leader was Tyler, 17 years old, with designer sneakers and an attitude that screamed entitlement. Behind him came Marcus with his phone always recording, Jessica with her cruel laugh, Brandon the athlete, and Ashley who went along with everything. They ordered their overpriced beverages, treating Sarah's staff like servants. Their voices grew louder, their jokes cruder, their language more offensive. James tried to focus on his newspaper, but Marcus noticed him. "Dude, check out Grandpa over there," Marcus whispered loudly. "His hands are shaking like crazy." Tyler turned, his eyes landing on James with predatory focus. "Oh man, that's brutal. How does he even drink coffee?" Jessica giggled. "Maybe he's scared of something, like traumatized or whatever. Or maybe he's just old and useless," Brandon added casually. James heard every word. His jaw tightened slightly, but he wasn't going to let ignorant teenagers ruin his morning coffee. Marcus pulled out his phone, switching to video mode. "This is going to be great content. Watch this." He aimed the camera at James, zooming in on the trembling hands. "Hey everyone, check out Coffee Cup Challenge. Senior Edition. Can he make it to his mouth without spilling?" The group erupted in laughter. Other customers shifted uncomfortably. An elderly couple looked distressed but said nothing. Sarah started moving toward them, anger hardening her expression. But at table 7, near the service entrance, Commander Rick Stevens had stopped mid-bite. His eyes were locked on James, specifically on that barely visible tattoo. The 52-year-old naval officer's face had gone pale. That tattoo, that specific placement, that faded trident. It couldn't be. Rick's hand trembled as he reached for his phone. Master Chief Petty Officer James Morrison had been declared dead in 1973 after a mission in Southeast Asia. The official record stated his body was never recovered. The unofficial truth was that Morrison had completed an impossible mission, saved 23 hostages, and disappeared so completely that even the Navy couldn't track him. Rick's fingers moved urgently across his phone, pulling up a secure contact labeled Alpha Legacy. The message was simple, code red, Harborview Cafe, Morrison alive, needs immediate support. Within seconds, responses flooded in from every SEAL Team 7 member within 30 miles. Back at James's table, Tyler had moved closer, emboldened by his friend's laughter. He stood directly in front of James, phone recording. "Excuse me, sir, we're doing a social experiment about elderly people. Mind if we ask questions?" James looked up slowly, his green eyes meeting Tyler's with calm intensity. "I mind." "Oh, come on," Jessica chimed in. "It's just for fun. How old are you anyway? Like 90? Do you need help holding your cup?" Brandon reached toward James's coffee mockingly. James's hand shot out with unexpected speed, gripping Brandon's wrist. The tremor was completely absent from that iron grip. Brandon gasped, but James held firm for just a moment before releasing him. "Don't touch my coffee." The authority in that voice made Brandon stumble backward. For just a second, he'd seen something in James's eyes that terrified him. This wasn't a feeble old man. But Tyler stepped even closer. "Oh, tough guy, huh? What are you gonna do, old man? Shake at us?" Sarah finally reached them. "That's enough. You kids need to leave right now or I'm calling the police." "For what?" Tyler challenged. "We're just talking. It's a free country, isn't it? Or do veterans get special treatment?" That word, veterans, hung in the air. "How did you know he's a veteran?" Sarah asked slowly. Tyler smirked. "Look at him. Old guy, short haircut, sitting with his back to the wall. Classic PTSD case." Marcus zoomed in on James's face. "Look at the way he won't even defend himself. Classic broken soldier. This is what happens when you can't adapt to civilian life." What they didn't notice was the door opening at 10:03 a.m. A man in jeans and a gray t-shirt walked in with unmistakable military posture. Then another, and another. By 10:05 a.m., 14 men had entered Harbor View Cafe. They positioned themselves throughout the space with tactical precision, creating a perimeter the teenagers were too focused to notice. These were Navy SEALs, active duty and retired, who had spent careers hearing stories about the legendary Ghost Morrison. They'd trained with his tactics and built their careers on his foundation. Commander Rick Stevens stepped forward first. "Master Chief Morrison." His voice cut through the laughter. "It's an honor, sir." James looked up, eyes widening as he took in Rick's face and the wall of warriors around them. "Commander, you're a long way from base." "Not as far as you've been, sir," Rick replied, eyes flicking to the teenagers. "These kids bothering you?" Tyler found his voice. "Look, we don't want trouble. We were just recording a disabled elderly man without consent, mocking his medical condition, and physically threatening him." Rick finished coldly. "That's what you were doing?" Chief Petty Officer Marcus Williams stepped forward. "That just old man is Master Chief Petty Officer James Morrison. His hands shake because of Parkinson's disease, developed from exposure to chemical agents during classified missions." Lieutenant Commander James Park moved closer. "Those shaking hands defused bombs under enemy fire in Cambodia. Those hands pulled 17 wounded Marines from a burning helicopter. Those hands held a sniper rifle steady for 3 days during a hostage rescue that saved 23 American lives." Jessica's phone slipped from her trembling hands. Senior Chief Alex Martinez spoke next. "Master Chief Morrison was declared Kia in 1973 after a Southeast Asia mission. The real story is that he completed his mission, saved every hostage, eliminated a hostile force 3 times his size, and disappeared because the mission was so classified that acknowledging his survival would compromise national security." The cafe had gone silent. Every phone was now documenting history. "You didn't know because you didn't bother to know," Commander Stevens continued. "You saw an elderly man with a medical condition and decided that made him weak. Entertainment. You never considered there might be a reason he sits with his back to the wall, positions himself to see both exits, tracks every person who enters." Brandon whispered, "What reason?" James finally spoke. "Because for 50 years I've been watching for threats. I've been ready for when my past catches up. I've been prepared to fight even when my body betrays me." His shaking hand lifted the coffee cup deliberately. These hands might shake, but they remember every trigger pull, every life saved, every mission completed. He looked at each teenager. "You want to know real strength? It's not physical. It's facing your fears every day, serving something bigger than yourself. Sacrifice you can't comprehend." Marcus Williams showed his phone, a declassified 1972 photograph of young SEALs in Southeast Asia. In the center stood a man with piercing green eyes. "This is Master Chief Morrison at 28. 3 weeks later, he led a mission to extract American POWs. The mission was deemed impossible. Too heavily guarded, terrain too hostile, odds too steep." James Park continued. Morrison went in anyway, alone. 4 days behind enemy lines, gathering intelligence, preparing the battlefield. When the extraction team arrived, he'd already freed the prisoners, eliminated guards, and was providing covering fire from 3 positions to make the enemy think they faced a larger force. 17 Americans came home that night, Alex Martinez added. 17 fathers, brothers, sons. That operation is still classified. Most men he saved never knew his name, but we do. Every SEAL knows Ghost Morrison. We study his tactics, model our training on his methods, measure ourselves against his legacy. Ashley was crying. I'm so sorry. We're all so sorry. Sorry doesn't cut it. Rick Stevens said firmly. You recorded this man, mocked his disability, threatened him, broadcast his humiliation to thousands. A new voice came from the doorway. You'll do more than apologize. Everyone turned to see Rear Admiral Thomas Bradford, retired, in full uniform decorated with decades of service ribbons. You'll learn what it means to serve, to sacrifice, to respect those who've given everything for your freedom to mock them in this cafe. He approached James and rendered a crisp salute that James returned despite his tremor. Master Chief Morrison, it's been 47 years since I last saw you. We thought you were gone. I had to be, Tom. You know why? I do, Bradford replied. But these kids need to understand what that choice meant. He turned to the teenagers. Master Chief Morrison could have retired with full honors. Pension, benefits, recognition, parades. Instead, he chose to disappear. New identity, regular jobs, quiet life, all to protect intelligence assets and ongoing operations. He watched younger men receive medals for missions he pioneered. He read about tactics in newspapers that he invented. He saw teammates honored while his service remained classified. The Admiral's voice hardened, and he did it without complaint, without asking for recognition, without breaking his oath. That is honor. That is service. And you mocked him because his hands shake. Jessica was openly crying. Brandon had collapsed into a chair. Marcus had deleted his stream, but it was already spreading across the internet. Tyler stood frozen. I need you to understand, Commander Stevens said softer. Master Chief Morrison's Parkinson's is a direct result of his service. Agent Orange in Vietnam, chemical weapons in classified operations. His body is paying the price for keeping you safe. Petty Officer David Chun spoke up. I joined because of Ghost Morrison's stories. My father served with him, never told me details, but said Morrison was why he came home alive. That's why I'm here. Because of this man. More SEALs added their stories about brothers saved, tactics learned, lives changed, painting a picture of influence rippling through decades. Tyler found his voice. Sir, Master Chief, there's nothing I can say that will make this right, but I want to learn, to be better. James looked at him for a long moment. You want to make this right? Yes, sir. Then serve. Serve something bigger than yourself. It doesn't have to be military. Serve your community, a cause, people who need help. Take what you learned today and be better. Be kinder. Recognize that every person carries battles you know nothing about. He gestured to his hands. These hands have seen things you can't imagine. But they've also held babies, comforted wounded soldiers, helped disaster victims, volunteered at hospitals. Strength isn't about steady hands. It's about what you choose to do with whatever strength you have. Admiral Bradford placed a hand on James's shoulder. Master Chief, it's time your service was recognized. The operations are declassified now. You've lived in shadows long enough. James shook his head. I didn't do it for recognition, Tom. I did it because it needed to be done. We know, Commander Stevens replied. That's exactly why you deserve it. Over the next hour, the cafe became a reunion. More veterans arrived, word spreading through military networks. They came to pay respects, to shake hands carefully, to tell him what his service meant. The 5 teenagers stayed at James's request. He wanted them to hear the stories, to understand what they'd almost destroyed with their mockery. Tyler's phone buzzed constantly. The video had gone viral, but not as intended. Comments flooded. Those kids have no idea who they're messing with. This is what a real hero looks like. Master Chief Morrison is a legend. The teenagers approached hesitantly. Master Chief Morrison, we'd like to volunteer at the VA hospital. If you think they'd have us. We want to learn, to serve, to be better. James studied them, then nodded. Come back next Thursday, 9 a.m. We'll talk about what service really means. As the cafe returned to normal, James sat alone at his corner table once more. Sarah brought fresh coffee on the house. His hands still shook as he lifted it. Parkinson's didn't care about redemption, but as he looked around, at men who respected him, civilians who honored him, teenagers who would learn, James Morrison allowed himself to feel something he hadn't in 50 years. He felt seen. He felt valued. And next Thursday at 9:47 a.m., when he returned to his corner table, he wouldn't be alone. Because once a seal, always a seal. And seals never leave their brothers behind. Before you go, I want to hear from you. Have you ever witnessed someone being bullied because of their age or disability and wished you'd spoken up? Have you ever judged someone without knowing their story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if the story moved you, if it reminded you that heroes walk among us every day, hit that subscribe button. Because producing stories like this takes time. We spend hours researching, writing, and bringing these important tales to life. Your subscription and likes help us continue honoring our veterans and spreading messages of respect and dignity. Every hero deserves to have their story told. Every person deserves to be seen for who they really are. Subscribe now for more powerful military stories that remind us what true courage looks like. Never forget, respect costs nothing, but its value is immeasurable.